Central Texas Life with Ann Harder.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Central Texas Life. I'm Ann Harder, and welcome to this, my dream interview with Lynne Russell, the legendary CNN anchor and amazing author. And we're going to talk about her books. We're going to talk about her amazing journey through life. And it's just a delight to have you here with us.
Thank you so much for asking me, Ann. It's going to be so much fun.
Well, that's always our goal with the podcast here. But, you know, when we first connected, it was through Facebook. We have a mutual friend, Bob Serwatis, and
Yep.
I saw your name this is a few years ago. I saw your name and I went, Lynne Russell, could that be my Lynne Russell? And I thought, oh, well, she's going to have a firewall, you know, an ordinary person couldn't come. And I clicked on it and I could message you. So I messaged you and you responded. I mean, I am so totally a fan of you.
Ann, for all this time, we have been in contact, right?
Yeah.
I just feel like we have been sitting down over coffee and or a glass of wine and several of them. And we know each other.
Well, that is the one good thing about Facebook. I mean, there's a lot of bad stuff about social media, but the fact that I could connect with you, absolutely, if there's the news anchor's anchor, that is you, because I watched you on CNN. You were there, started in the 80s, correct?
Yep, 83, January of 83.
For 18 years, you anchored CNN Headline News in the evening. And you were really the anchor that I watched. And I never dreamed I would be doing television news years later.
Oh.
But I would watch. No, I thought, she knows how to do it. And I would love your demeanor. I love the way you presented the news. One time you'd finished your shift and the camera was kind of backing away and you took that mic off and you wrapped it up and you set it down. And I thought, oh my goodness, I just love this woman. And the fact that I'm sitting here talking to you, my mind is blown.
Well, thank you, Ann. There must have been some drama going on if the mic came off the way it did.
Well,
and I'm sure you can imagine what it might have been because you've been there.
Oh, yeah. Anything can happen in live TV news, and it does. But you worked so hard. I mean, you worked hard at CNN. You were one of the first 3 anchors hired, right? When Ted Turner, you were kind of like, who is this guy?
Oh, Ted Turner. God, I love that man. I got there when Headline News was barely a year old. And at that time, it was in what we call the old building. And I remember I was spending, I started out for the first 5 months working overnights, which to me was harder than going through labor. And I'd get off the air at 7 a.m. and go sit at Howard Johnson's across the street with a little notebook. And I had just come from Texas and San Antonio.
That's right.
And myself notes. I said, who is Ted Turner and what are you doing here? And then later, of course, look at all the wonderful things that happened. Ted's idea just exploded because the world really needed a good, solid 24-hour news network. And that was what especially CNN Headline News was, because we never, ever took time off, for anything. And Ted Turner, visionary, is a wonderful man. And probably the thing you'd love most about him is that he always says what he's thinking, and you can take that to the bank. You don't have to like it. It's okay. But you know where he stands. And I want to thank you for saying that we worked hard, because the philosophy was for somebody that maybe the only half hour of news they're going to see.
Correct.
And it was that. So that was it. And every half hour had to be different. You can't change the news of the day, as you know. But if you had to do it again and again, you could change the way in which it's presented, and so that it stays fresh. And that was, you're right, that was work, but boy, it was fun, and it took a lot of people to do it.
Well, I read a lot about you, and the New York Times described you as a just the facts stalwart of CNN Headline News, a news anchor with the personality of a professional wrestler, which you said you took as a compliment.
Okay. That works for me. Doesn't bother me at all. I just like that very much. And sometimes you have to be a professional wrestler in the nicest way in order to get anything done, even if it comes down to just getting the decent lighting. What are you going to do?
Right, exactly. Well, you have said the journalist job, privilege and responsibility is to tell the story, explain why it's important, and then shut up and allow the public to draw their own conclusions. You say, I have faith that they are very capable of this. And that is my own philosophy. And I think we're kind of seeing something different happen with news reporting.
Yeah. Oh, you're not seeing that. One or two places, maybe. You really have to look for it. You are told, you aren't even given the facts. Never mind being told
that's
what
true.
to do. You're not given the facts. And it angers me so that I really can't watch very much. Because if I'm going to start yelling and throwing things at a monitor, I'm going to get paid for it like I used to.
Right. Yeah, we were talking about throwing a pin at a sleeping teleprompter operator.
Wake the hell up already. You're on the air here.
Right. Well, you covered a lot of, breaking news and all kinds of things. And as you say, and for me, that really was true. That would be the half hour that I would get of national and international news. Big stories that come to mind over those 18 years?
Oh, every day was a big story. Mm-hmm. That's the important thing. And people say, what's the story that you remember most of all? And it's never what you would think it would be. It's always a story about one person, and probably not an office holder. There was a little boy named David Steinberg, I believe it was. And his father had an argument with his mother, and the father had taken him to a motel and set fire to it with David in it. I don't even remember. Oh, I know the father did survive, and so did David, but he was terribly, terribly burned. And the father went to prison, and guess what? They let him out. And that's not even today. That's decades ago. But I had a son about that age at that time. I dug my fingernails into the palms of my hands, and you can imagine, right, when you're reading a story like that, because you're not just reading it, you're telling it. And which is another reason you only need teleprompter and sleepy operators if you're not paying attention, because you're telling a story.
Right.
But I'll never forget when that man was paroled and David was interviewed. All these people standing around him, shoving microphones into his mutilated, dear little face, and he's sitting in a wheelchair. And someone asked the obvious question, how does it feel? How do you feel? And he said, I know my father doesn't love me. It was very, very hard to go on that night. Yeah. It's that kind of story that I remember, not what the politicians did. I didn't care then. I care less now. Mm-hmm. I won't give you all the reasons why, but that's the kind of story that really, really gets to you. And you know that you are representing all those people in the audience. You're just talking to one person anyway through the camera lens. And you're representing all those people who are watching this and reacting the same way.
That you are, yeah. There's well, I can't even say anything more about that because you've summed it up so well, because these stories, they do affect. And in fact, I spoke to the news anchors at my former station just recently and talked about how, news anchors can suffer PTSD on major stories that, because you sort of separate yourself from what you're reporting. You have to, or I'd be a blubbering puddle, Yeah. But then eventually it catches up with you.
There's so many other ways. If you're out there reporting, you're going to see those long red streaks on the pavement.
Exactly.
That's not a good sign, right?
No.
And
I flash back to when I was a teenager and went to a murder scene, and I know.
Yeah. So, but you learn you're not a participant in that. You are an objective observer. And so you learn how to handle that. And it's very different from being in the middle of an assault, and you can get PTSD out of that for sure. But the rest of it, we mostly just took margaritas seriously, and things got better.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned, and I love a good segue. You did find yourself in the middle of a news story in 2015. And
we did.
Yes, you did. And I see your sweet husband back there in the background, just sort of relaxing. So how Chuck, how are you doing?
I'm doing fine.
Good. Well, that's great. Well,
didn't know you could see him.
Yeah, just a little bit. But yes.
I'll go
no, really, no. Come, pop on camera and say hi.
Hi.
No, it was a stunning experience that you went through. Miraculous that you both survived it.
Yeah.
And
You want the head news version?
yeah. Well, yeah, go ahead.
It's pretty short.
Okay.
We were on a road trip. We decided, my husband is a national security strategist, Chuck DeCaro, who was CNN's first special assignments correspondent. So this wonderful marriage, all we do is edit each other all the time. We just can't help it.
That's not true.
Yes, it is true. Anyway, so he had something that he had to do with the National Guard in California. And we came from the DC area, and he said, let's just take a nice all-American road trip across the South, right? Specifically across the South, because we're licensed to carry in lots of states, not all of them up north.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, we knew we would have to disarm at California border. But so we had an elderly dog, a dear 13-year-old Weimaraner named Oliver. And we thought, let's make this our big trip. So we set out and we stopped here and there and we had a great time. And then we got to Albuquerque, New Mexico, where my father, I was an Army brat, had been stationed a couple of times. And I'd graduated high school there, and I remembered it as a nice sleepy town. Chuck remembered it for other things, the Atomic Energy Commission, et cetera, because he has a military background, Air Force Academy and Special Forces. And anyway, so we saw friends, and then we decided to head out. It was 11:30 at night. And we thought, what's the point of being on Route 66 if you can't see it? So we found a brightly lit motel where we thought it would be easy to take Oliver out many times during the night because he had to do that all night long.
Mm-hmm.
And brought our things inside. Chuck gets in the shower. And I remembered we didn't have dog food for the morning. So I went back out to the car to get it. Didn't see anybody around. Got back up to the door of the motel, a Motel 6, by the way. Don't even think about it. And put the food down and pushed the door open and reached down to pick it up again. And a guy with a gun comes around the corner, launches me into the room, slams the door. At the exact moment, Chuck's coming out of the shower, dripping wet, looking for a towel. Now, I have spent years of my life, Anne, with men who would have gone back into the bathroom, right? They got nothing. But Chuck's had Chuck. So I heard him over my shoulder saying, what the hell is going on in here? And next thing I know, this brave man has walked into the room and stationed himself in front of the bedside, the table between the beds where we had placed our guns for the night. So the guy never saw the guns. Anyway, he wanted something, wanted something, wouldn't take anything. And it was terrifying. And finally, I moved around the bed and was able to stand hip to hip with Chuck, who's still standing there dripping wet, and reached behind him and slipped one of the guns into my Kate Spade, which I thought I'd never see again, my purse, and handed it to him. So here's this Italian boy dripping wet with a Kate Spade in front of his privates. And he told me later he was concerned about using, I said, maybe there's something in here you'd like to have to give the man. And he said, yes, there is. So he told me later that he was concerned about the reciprocal action of the slide on the semi-automatic against the lining of the purse. So he was thinking about that and about whether there might be anybody in the parking lot who might be jeopardized. And in the middle of all that, the guy decided he was going to grab something. He grabbed Chuck's computer, headed for the door. And we both, thank God we think so closely, to each other. We both were thinking, let's not let this man focus. So we were doing all right. And the guy headed to the door and we both thought, oh, he's going to leave. And then he turned around and opened fire on Chuck. Oh. And then Chuck yelled Ranger and went into a combat crouch and opened fire on him, returned fire. And they emptied their weapons. It must have been only about 5 seconds. And he killed the guy. But Chuck took 3 rounds and 2 of them were through and through. There are 5 bleeding wounds there. And it was an ugly series of surgeries and hospitalizations and things like that. So, but after that, yeah, you might show up with a little PTSD.
Yeah.
Hi, this is Sarah.
And I'm Carter.
And this is Some of Our Thoughts.
We're 2 Southern sommeliers, and we want to share everything we love and know about wine. We started hanging out during quarantine and cooking and drinking and listening to music. And we just thought this would be a great way to bring everything we know to you guys.
We will make wine knowledge and food pairings easy and approachable. So put on your favorite vinyl, grab your favorite glass of wine, tune into our show, and let's have some fun.
Wine and vinyl. So check us out on roguemedianetwork.com or wherever you get your favorite podcast. We'll be talking about a lot.
Welcome to One Star Rewind, a new podcast about those dreaded one-star reviews that every business owner hates to receive, but yet every customer loves to read. During this podcast, we will peel back that one-star review to better understand how it happened, when it happened, and what the business owner is doing after receiving that one-star review. This podcast will be about love, hate, and laughter. On One Star Rewind, we will meet with real business owners who will tell their stories and how they do rely on reviews for their business. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, or download us at roguemedianetwork.com. Please subscribe, but only rate and review for not a one-star review. Join us each time for a new review and a new story.
What's your emergency?
Do you hear that? It's coming from the house.
It's coming from inside the house? Do you mean? Could it be?
The Poltergeist. New from Rogue Media. Two haunted hotties talking about haunted places. Every episode we dive deep into the darkest places and give you a bit of history.
We're getting spooky in all the right places.
You've gobbled your last ghoul.
Follow along for the craziest and spookiest stories with Debbie's Dark Tourism. The Stanley Hotel,
Winchester House,
The Alamo,
Hotel Monte Vista,
and more spooky places. Find us at _Poltergals. POLTERGALS.
Look over your shoulder. It's us,
The Poltergals. Wherever you consume the podcast, you can find us there.
Yeah, I saw your exclusive interview with Good Morning America, I think. When you talked about it and you said, I've never cried on the air. But it brought you to tears. He was facing surgery, I think, the next day. This was back in 2016. In January, I think, is when that aired. Obviously, he's doing well. I'm so happy to see that. But yeah, it's got to be a long healing process. Never dreamed something like that would happen to you.
No, you never do. And it doesn't matter your background. I had 11 years as a Fulton County, Atlanta, Georgia deputy sheriff, jail officer, Chuck's military training. He has managed to keep going. And I just can't believe it. It was a while before I could even get on an elevator. They're just, all this stuff kicks in, and it doesn't go away. It just takes a lot of time and a good professional to work with. Chuck has just managed to keep everything steady. Yeah, and every once in a while there's a health problem still because the body doesn't like all that trauma and you don't know what's next. But he's a strong, brave man, and I love him.
I know you do, and you referred to him as your hero, and he modestly said, "Well, I don't know about that," but yes, very heroic, the actions, and you did sue.
We sued.
Motel said sadly they dismissed it. I understand, but.
Well, we settled actually.
You said, "Oh, did you?" Okay, good.
Motel 6, yeah, and the world's largest security company, G4 Security, had an armed guard there that night, and the guy was on his cell phone talking to, I think, his girlfriend.
Oh gosh.
and 32 cameras at Motel 6. And let me tell you, whether it's Motel 6 or any place, the cameras are nothing unless they're monitored in real time by somebody who's prepared to do something about it. Yeah. Otherwise, they're just there for the forensics people. So you just have to keep all that in mind.
Yeah, you had some very good advice also in that interview about what to do, because it was not, in your opinion, I mean, you had no idea that it would be a dangerous place. But there are some things you can do to research. And I thought that was wonderful.
Yeah, you do have to ask them questions and be prepared to walk if you don't like the answers at the front desk. You know, we had a guy who actually put 911 on hold. And while there were two people bleeding out, right? The assailant and Chuck on the property. EMS hadn't arrived yet. And he was putting people on hold. And actually, he was putting 911 on hold. And he was actually trying to give new rooms to other people. It's insane. So
I can't even.
Sometimes you don't get attention. Attention is not given as it should be to the serious problems until you file suit. Then all of a sudden they listen. But I don't think they're listening so well these days anyway. So you'd have to take care of yourself.
No, you do. You do. You have to take action on your own behalf. Well, you mentioned deputy sheriff for Fulton County, and during your CNN stint, and you did that gratis, right?
Absolutely. At that time, and I don't know what they have now, but we had a wonderful reserve division.
Yeah.
Same certification, same duty, no pay, and other people had their own reasons for doing it, but I was on the air. And I didn't want any conflict of interest of any kind. Also a private investigator. Didn't take money for that, still don't. Well, I might now, but I do now. But before, I just asked that donations be made to Guide Dogs for the Blind.
Oh, that's great. And that is just such an interesting aspect of your career and your interests that are so varied. Also a double black belt, is that correct, in karate?
Martial.
Yeah. How do you say that?
Yeah. CHOI.
Shoei Kwando, which is Korean, a Korean form?
DO. It's kind of a Korean street fighting. It's now morphed into something called United Martial Art. Yeah, it you know what, it moves like Tai Chi. It's very, very smooth moving, and everything that you do sets you up for the next thing. So it's great for women because it kind of moves, Tai Chi like the way women do. It's very fluid, but it's very, very powerful. It's great.
Well, and you've been doing this a while, and just another one of the interesting aspects of your life. But let's talk about your writing. So much about your books. Let's start with the Heels series. Which start with Hell on Heels, and your wonderful heroine who is a PJ Santini, and she's a news anchor. Go figure. Write what you know, they say.
Write what you know. So I wanted, when I was doing a lot of investigative work, I really wanted to open an agency and call it Hell on Heels and have it be by, for, and about women. I didn't do it. So then I'd use that as the title of the first PJ Santini book, which is really about a TV reporter who's a private investigator with a crazy Italian family. And you're right. And what's to make up? I've got that.
Yeah, your mother, I think, just, she was her project, even if it killed you. I think some quotes
That's
like
right.
that.
Italian mothers will do. And my husband here can vouch for that because he's even more Italian than I am. That your family, your mother, or your great aunt, whoever it is, will do what's right for you, even if it kills you.
Well, but you do really enjoy the food. And I loved reading your writing about Italian food because I love Italian food too.
Oh, I'm glad you do. It's comfort food. There's no doubt about it. And it's just hard to eat only a little bit of it. My mother actually did tell me, and I put it in the books, she'd say, Lynn, be careful because a minute in the mouth, a lifetime on the hips. And then with the other hand, she's, have some fettuccine Alfredo.
Have some more.
But, right? If you don't eat, people will think that I don't feed you.
So what's the favorite thing you like to cook Italian-wise?
Well, I like to eat Italian.
Yeah.
And Chuck cooks.
Oh,
cooks
Chuck
and-
does a okay, good.
Oh yeah. You know, I don't know, anything with eggplant,
Yes.
pasta, you really have to pace yourself with that. It's so
Mm.
delicious. But anything with olive, everything has olive oil in it.
Right.
So olive oil, you can take a few tomatoes and a couple of olives and a little pasta, and it depends on what you want to do with it. You can do 15 things with it, and it'll come out all different. And of course, the wine, the Chianti or the Valpolicella or the Montepulciano, and whatever you want.
And of course, a Mediterranean diet, very healthy diet. You are a vegetarian, though. It's still vegetarian?
Well, I fell off that wagon. I do find that for the most part, it is the better thing for me.
Mm-hmm.
So
Well, you
I
look
don't
fabulous.
need-
I mean, you
thanks.
you don't look like you've aged at all. I mean, it's just
Smoke and
remarkable.
mirrors, girl. Smoke and mirrors.
Well, you look amazing, and it seems like you feel great. You're keeping quite a hectic schedule.
Traveling on.
Traveling all over, have a couple of residences, and do you still have a place in Italy? I mean, or do you go to
Yes,
Italy a
our-
lot?
Still there. We haven't seen it in 2 years because of COVID.
Right.
But we're looking forward to going back, in the next few months, sometime pretty soon. So
Oh, good.
yeah.
Good.
And something really nice about Italian friends. They are so sincere and so real. When someone likes you in Italy, I mean, you really do have conversations eye to eye, and they really do tell you, they contact you and say, we miss you. When are you coming back? And they really mean it.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes it a little easier to be away, but still.
Well,
It'll be
I
good.
had the opportunity to visit Italy back in the 80s. My brother-in-law was stationed in the Navy in Naples, and they lived there 3 years and developed some amazing friendships. And in some of that, and they're traveling like in Sorrento and some of the places they would travel, just have lifelong friends. And,
Yes.
and there is that warmth that you get from the Italian people.
So when are you going back?
Tomorrow, if I could, I really, we just had a wonderful, wonderful trip to Italy. But I kind of feel like I went to Italy in Strega. Now, this is your newest book, and that's really what kind of prompted this. I wrote to you. You wished me a happy birthday on my birthday. I went, Lynne Russell, wish me a happy birthday. But I thought, now's my chance. I'm going to write you. Would you please come and be on the podcast? Strega, magic. The Spirit Never Dies. And different from the PJ Santini books. Are you going to, first of all, are you going to do more PJ? We got some more PJ?
Oh, yes. Number 4 is coming up. I'm not sure what I'm going to call it. I was thinking about Pucked, but it has a little hockey in it. And I was thinking about Puck. But there's another book by that name, so I'm not sure what I'm.
Yeah.
But I'm glad you like Strega.
I really did. It was different. And yet I loved the way you did it because it was in 2 different time periods, 2 different locales. And sometimes this kind of writing, there'll be one chapter, modern day, and the next chapter, what happened in the 1800s. And I get to where I just want to skip that and read them all in order. And you didn't do it that way. You did like books. And I love that.
I'm glad you liked
It was so much more user-friendly, but I felt like because of the descriptions of Italy and what I remembered from our trip there, it was just such a delightful tale. Well, how did you come up with this particular scenario?
Well, have you had any Strega liquore, that nice golden liquid that they sell in?
No, I need to go get some.
Oh yeah, bottles about like that, and it's manufactured in the part of Italy, Benevento province, which is very close to Naples, where my people come from.
Yeah.
And Benevento province is known for its stregas, for its witches. Way back in the year 600, apparently, they were having too much fun, not really hurting anybody, but they were having too much fun. And the Duke of Benevento converted to Christianity. And so to mark the occasion, he did what guys tend to do sometimes and looked around to try to destroy something in his own honor and decided, and he chopped down a walnut tree around which the ladies and the gentlemen would kind of cavort in the evening and have a nice time. He chopped it down, and the legend says that it grew back. So that's, and in the courtyard of the Strega building, where this wonderful liquore is made from many, many herbs, there is a walnut tree. They have it growing there, and it's on the front of a lot of the artwork of the bottle of the label. And so I don't know, when you grow up with all that going on around you, it's just, you just kind of take it for granted. And I realized that many other people were not familiar with it, although Strega sure does sell well, because allegedly, if you sip it with the love of your life under a full moon, you will absolutely be united forever. You have to be careful how you use it.
How romantic, though.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. More binding than a rope around both wrists, some people say.
Well, it's such a wonderful read. You know, how we're entering, the fall and Halloween. And it just seemed like such a perfect book to release at this time. There's a little witchcraft in it, but good witches.
Of course. You know what? It's about feminine gifts.
Yes.
And people are labeled, oh, she's a witch. Well, there are male witches too, right? She's a witch and all this. Hey, you know what? Everybody's got gifts if you will just open yourself and just enjoy them. Just figure out what you're about. And so there are different kinds of gifts. Some women know, when the weather's going to change. They know when something is going to happen. They may not know what. That would be me. So it's really challenging to try to figure out what.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just about the gifts and about how women can be relied upon, midwives, when the need is necessary, and then completely ostracized the rest of the time. And that's been true through the ages. But there's a little humor in it too. And I hope that you enjoyed that. And it starts in 1617 in Italy, but don't panic. I think I covered that whole thing from 1617 to 1898 in about 45 pages. And then from 1898 to it jumps to the present day and it's about reincarnation too. Right?
Yep.
So it's a bit challenging, and you may find some things when you end it that you didn't realize you knew when you started reading.
Yes. Well, it's funny, as I read a book, particularly when I know I'm going to get to interview the author, I'll just highlight things that sort of jump out at me. And it's always fun to go back and say, well, what did I say? Just a few. One is on page 149. I sounded like one of those bubble-headed news anchors who's been in the business 3 minutes and comes off like a second grader.
Yeah. Well,
been there, done that. Deer in the headlights. Yeah.
I think we all have had experience with that.
Well, and I love this quote. There's more to life than the internet. When you're online, you're moving too fast to expect much of the creative side of your brain. Too many ads and links and near facts and opinions from idiots. Too little objectivity, too much noise. If you were to ask the universe for deepest inspiration, you wouldn't be able to hear the answer. I mean, that's deep.
But it's so true.
It is true.
And if we allow ourselves, we'll realize it's just so obvious that there's so much information coming in. And if we don't quiet our minds every once in a while, we're going to miss it. And we're missing the good stuff.
Yeah, but funny too. I mean, here's one more. If my entire afternoon had been spent on a Saks Fifth Avenue shopping spree, so untamed that my American Express card burst into flames in the elevator, he couldn't have made me feel more beautiful. Now, that's a boy you want to take home to mother.
I was always impressed with the way the elevators move so slowly in Saks. It's just so genteel, Yeah. Why not? And if it's somebody else's American Express, it's even better.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, it's a delightful book, Strega, Magic, The Spirit Never Dies by Lynne Russell. And Lynne, I don't want this to come to an end because I'm having so much fun talking with you. And I'm just delighted that Chuck is in the background listening in on this. But I like to end these visits. It's a similar questionnaire to the one the wonderful late, great James Lipton would use on Inside the Actor's Studio. And this is my little take. on these questions. What's your favorite word?
I can't say it on the air.
Well, you know what? This is a podcast.
It's a noun. It's a verb.
Okay.
It's a
Okay.
verb.
Okay. What's your least favorite word?
Quit.
Yeah. What turns you on creatively, spiritually, or emotionally?
All three.
Or anyone.
Opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Every moment is an opportunity. If we aren't living in the moment, we are indeed, as we were just saying before, missing it all, because you can't go back and do it again. You just can't. And you're going to miss a lot if you don't understand that every moment is an opportunity. And you know what? You're not a victim until you say you're a victim. You have choices in your life, and they're coming along every second. Everything you do is a choice. And if you can help somebody else, and if you will be helped, and there are people willing to do it, then you'll be able to enjoy every moment's opportunity even more.
What turns you off then, creatively or spiritually or emotionally?
People who are turned off, people who are so angry, people who are addicted to being a victim.
Mm-hmm.
This brings very bad things into other people's lives. People who will not accept responsibility for their own behavior and for the way their lives are going. That turns me on.
Right. What's your favorite sound?
Sound of wine being poured.
That's good.
And my husband saying, "Ti amo."
Oh. Say it. Can he say it?
No,
Okay.
Honey,
it's not for you.
I know where you live.
Oh, no, you're not saying it to me. You're saying it to
Ti
her.
amo. Ti amo.
Bellissimo mio, senza di te la mia vita è proprio vuoto e non so cosa devo fare senza di te. È proprio un buio scurissimo. Ti amo tantissimo, è bellissima.
Grazie. You know, we were married in Italy, and they don't go through this whole thing. Do you, for this, you're going to do this and that and all this. He just said, do you take Lynn, right, to be your wife? And I thought Chuck would say yes. And he said, con tutto il mio cuore, with all my heart.
Oh, my heart is bursting. Okay, so what sound do you not like?
No. The
Okay.
word no. Period.
Well, you've done so many professions. The next question is even designed lampshades. Is that correct? Did I read that?
Yeah.
Well, what other profession would you like to try?
Law.
I can see you doing that.
I majored
Absolutely.
in nursing. In college, I majored in nursing.
Right.
And when I got into I cried all the time. I just couldn't leave it, at work and go home at night. So then I thought law would be good, because you can do a lot of good. You can help people. It's a challenge. It's wonderful. And God knows I love to talk. So, but law school wouldn't accept all my science credits. So then I lied and said I could write radio copy. And I went into radio and discovered that radio and television enable you to make a huge difference and enjoy yourself, and it's challenging. So, but yeah, I would do law.
Yeah. Interesting. Yes. Yeah. You started in Fort Collins, I think, Colorado. Your very first job. A beautiful state.
1,000-watt radio station. And sundown, it went to
I was going to say it was a daytimer. Yeah. I used to work for one of those too. What job do you know you would not want to do?
Be Joe Biden's press secretary.
That's for sure.
That's all.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Finally, what do you want to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Yo, Lynn.
What did you just say?
Yo, Lynn.
Yo, Lynn.
Yo.
There's a moment going on here. What do I want to hear God saying? I'd like to hear her say, "We've been waiting for you."
Uh-huh.
I love it. Oh, Lynn, I'm just I'm just over the moon that we had this chance to visit and enjoy your story. There's so much more to your life that, we didn't even touch. And I was thinking, how do I structure this? And I'm just kind of glad it sort of flowed the way it did. But get her book and her series of books. And of course, your first book really was about your CNN career. I'll turn this over. And how to win friends, kick ass, and influence people. So that's and that was back in 99. Oh, I did want to ask you about this. I lied. That wasn't the end of those questions. You had 3 rules. No limits was rule number 1. Rule number 2, taste lots of things in life. And rule number 3, there's nothing wrong with this world that 20 minutes in Victoria's Secret won't fix.
That was when Victoria's Secret was selling really elegant, sensuous lingerie.
Yeah.
And not Saturday night at the dorm.
I know.
But yes, that's absolutely true. Taste lots of things. And you know what? There's no such thing as failure. Everything that you do, you felt was right at the time, and you learned from it. It's called experience.
Mm-hmm.
And may I say, before we run out of time, Anne, that I thank you for being such a wonderful interviewer. You do it the way it should be done. We didn't have a conversation beforehand, right?
No, we really didn't.
Because the good stuff gets said. And, and it's never the same the second time around.
Right.
This has been just so much fun.
Yeah, I have learned that. I've learned that over the years. You are absolutely a delight. And I'm looking forward to the next PJ Santini, whatever we are going to call it. But I hope you all have just a wonderful rest of your day and enjoyed this immensely.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on. I just thoroughly enjoyed it. And I look forward to the next time.
Oh, absolutely. I'll hold you to that. Next time the book, we'll spend more time on PJ Santini than even we did.
Like that.
All right, I'll hold you to that. The great Lynne Russell, thank you so much. And thank you for being with us. Join us again for Central Texas Life. Bye-bye.
Central Texas Life with Ann Harder is part of the Rogue Media family. Be sure to check out our other shows at roguemedianetwork.com. Please rate this show 5 stars on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, or anywhere you get your podcasts. Join us again soon for more Central Texas Life with Ann Harder.